I wanted to ask you about identifying synthetic dyes, especially in the context of the word synthetic. When we say the word synthetic dye versus, say, a natural dye, what is the difference there, and what things are we looking for to be able to identify it? Because one thing that you guys taught me the last time you were on is something you've already mentioned. This stuff is everywhere in places you would not necessarily expect it. So, what's the difference between synthetic dye and, say, a natural dye, whatever that means? And how do we identify it in our foods and other products that we're using?
So, synthetic dyes are a chemical. So, they're oftentimes a byproduct of petroleum. So, they're man made. Natural dyes are something that is occurring in nature, like turmeric or beetroot juice or beta carotene, which is made from carrots. And so, a natural dye comes from nature. Synthetic dyes are a
Man-made.
man made chemical added to food to make it look more appealing for consumers. So, realistically, it's oftentimes added to ultra processed food. So, for example, if you were to make a product that uses natural or artificial flavors, whenever you add that into your product, say you want it to be strawberry flavor, you add a natural or an artificial flavor to it, it's colorless. So you have a product that tastes like strawberries, but it doesn't look like strawberries. So you add a synthetic dye to make it look like a strawberry in lieu of actually using a strawberry in your product. And the reason why manufacturers opt to do that is because it's so much cheaper to make a product that tastes like strawberries than to actually use a batch of strawberries than to actually use like real strawberries in your product. So it is a cost issue, and it's also a convenience issue in that every batch of strawberries tastes or looks a little bit different. And so
And taste
for
different.
some reason, us as Americans, we've gotten to this point where we expect our food to always taste the same and look the same and to be vibrant and beautiful. In reality, if you grow a garden, I mean, your food's not always going to look beautiful or perfect. Like that's just not a reality. And so we've got to get back to eating real foods. I do think it needs to, I mean, it's a larger issue than just synthetic dyes. The reality is we wouldn't have gotten here if we were actually eating real foods. And I think one of the more demented aspects of this whole thing is that synthetic dyes are often used in like children's products, even more so than adult products. And the reason why that is because children like brightly colored foods. And so they are using them to market, to children. And I mean, I told you we're business owners and I'm a marketer. And so I get it logistically, but the cost of using something like that and to move away from using real foods to just fake things that are not benefiting our health, it's insane. And so
Well, and
that's the main difference. And on a label, you'll find a synthetic dye. It has to be listed on the label if they're complying by the FDA standards. And so,
in America, it has to be listed in a very particular way. So in America, it has to be listed with the color and the number. So the dyes
Color,
that,
number.
yeah. So what you're going to see now, there are two that that don't necessarily follow the. Well, they still kind of do. There's one called Orange B, and one called Citrus Red 2. Both of those two dyes are still technically permitted for use, but they haven't been used in years, and they're actually planning on phasing those out. Citrus Red 2 was only used to color the skin of oranges, Florida oranges for a while, but they, like I said, they haven't done
Wow.
that in years. And then Orange B was used to color like the skin of like sausage casing and things like that. Both of those haven't been used. So all the other ones would be red 3, red 40, yellow 5, yellow 6, blue 1, blue 2, and green 3. So all those have to be listed in some form or fashion in that way. It could be FD&C red 40 or just red 40 or red number 40, but it's always going to have that color and a number in the United States. Now, where it gets kind of tricky is if you're traveling internationally, say you're in Europe, Europe uses like the E system. So I don't remember the exact color for number, but like E132, I think is one of the colors. And then some countries like actually list like it's either the common name, I think it's called the common name. So like yellow 5, I think it's yellow 5 is called tartrazine, right?
yeah.
And then like
Hmm.
red 40 is Allura red. So like other countries can label it differently, but in the United States, it's required to be listed with either the FD&C requirements, so the food, drug, and cosmetic like requirements, which require it to be that color and a number.
Got it. Okay. Thank you so much, both of you, for explaining that. And like I said, I got the movie right when it came out. So it's been several months since I've watched it, but you just reminded me of a part of the movie that I thought was brilliant, where you guys did a bit of an experiment where you brought people in to try different foods that used dyes or not use dyes. Like visually, does one look better than the other? How do they taste? Like, can you tell us about that experiment? I thought that was awesome.
Well, like the concept originally for that was like, and this is part of doing a documentary. Like we had an idea, we had a plan. We shot the first one, and the concept was supposed to be they can't tell a difference being blindfolded.
Yeah, if they can or if they
Yeah,
can.
can they tell a difference of the taste blindfolded or not blindfolded? So our very first time we did this experiment with the first group, we realized very quickly that they were able to distinguish a taste difference, and we started looking at the ingredients because a lot of these were coming from other countries. And what we realized is like even sometimes the same product from another country, like the European version may not have synthetic dyes in it, and the American version does, but that's not the only difference in the formula. Like the different countries have different like taste profiles. So we realized, okay, it's not like a Europe has it the entire formula just with different colorings, and America has it with synthetic dyes. So what we kind of shifted to is a like, is there like, can we get a conversation going around why? Okay, this one does taste different. This one actually tastes better. These two particular ones, and then we started bringing in things that weren't necessarily just from other countries. We bought like a bag of generic Dorito style chips, and then a bag of actual nacho Dorito style, like actual real Doritos, side by side. They looked identical. They couldn't tell a difference, but one of them was using turmeric and one of them was using red 40 to color. And so that was just kind of like a, can we bring in people and get a conversation going around like what really is the reason behind these dyes, and if the general population knew about these studies and knew about this research, would they say the cost risk, benefit of these dyes, would it make sense? And what we got for the most part, and of course we were doing this experiment with friends and family. This wasn't like a blind study, like a legitimate like study, but this was just kind of an experiment that we did with our friends and family, people that we knew weren't living necessarily like a dye-free lifestyle. That wasn't something that they were necessarily doing. But the general consensus was, knowing this information, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that companies and the government will continue to allow this, knowing the potential harm that they could have when we do have these natural alternatives that maybe they're not neon colored, but it's pretty close. So that was it was just a kind of a fun way to get people talking about, like there are other options, and this could be done if companies really wanted to make it happen.
Yeah, no, I thought it was brilliant. Like I said, and like, how high of a priority is it that my red Fruit Loops are actually like deep red? You know what I mean? Like, it
Right.
doesn't make that big of a difference at the end of the day. And I thought you did a good job telling that story.